What is going on, everybody? Today I'm exploring the city of Soldotna on the lower Kenai Peninsula, famous for its king salmon and its late fall sockeye salmon fishing. Let's check it out. Soldotna is a town of around 4,000 residents in the middle of the Kenai Peninsula in south central Alaska. Settlement of the area didn't begin until after World War II, for two main reasons. First, in 1947, the US government withdrew townships along the Cook Inlet, allowing settlement under the Homestead Act. US veterans at the time were given a 90-day preference in selecting land and property. Secondly, the highway from Cooper Landing to Kenai was cleared in the same year, allowing cars, horses, and resources to easily travel from Anchorage to Soldotna. As the town grew in the 1950s, it started to become the destination for sport fishing in Alaska, and it's most known for its famous run of king or Chinook salmon, as well as sockeye, or what the locals call reds, with a story of the world record king salmon you won't believe. On May 17th, 1985, Les Anderson and his fishing partner were fishing on the lower Kenai River when Les hooked into a massive king salmon that they were fishing for on the lower part of the river. After hooking into the king salmon and going up and down the river for nearly 2 hours, Les and his fishing partner were able to get the fish to the bank and take some epic photos of the king salmon that Les had just caught. Now, the salmon was huge, and at the time they didn't know that it was going to be a world record salmon, so they went on and kept fishing. With the spring heat coming down that day, it was a fairly warm day. When they finally got to the official weight scales, the fish weighed in at a world record 97 pounds and 4 ounces. But what people estimate is that the salmon actually weighed over 100 pounds, but because they decided to fish for a few more hours, people figure that the salmon lost 2 to 3 pounds of water weight before they got it to the official scale. When they officially got the fish to the scales, it weighed 97 pounds and 4 ounces, nearly 5 feet tall, and with 37.5-inch girth around the fish. It was a behemoth to get in the boat and also out of the boat to get on the official scales. So before Les passed away, he wished that somebody would break his king salmon world record because he didn't like the popularity and all the publicity that it brought him and his family. And to this date, that record is still existed and hasn't been touched since 1985, but you never know. Unless you get out there fishing on the lower Kenai for some king salmon, you never know when you might catch that next world record fish. So down here at the Soldotna Visitor Center, they have a wooden carved statue of the king salmon and of Les to commemorate his world record catch back in 1985. If you guys want to learn more, you can come down here to the Visitor Center when you come into town and learn more about that epic day of Les catching the world record king salmon here on the lower Kenai River. The Kenai River runs right through Soldotna from high up in the mountains, flowing out to the Cook Inlet. In the early spring through fall, you will find people of all ages fishing for Chinook, sockeye, coho, and trout on the river. From the inlet all the way up to Kenai Lake in the mountains, the river twists and turns with many fishing opportunities from the bank and a boat. In the early spring, you can fish for trout and king salmon. Although the number of kings has been down in recent years, you can still catch some of these giant 40-pound kings, and they put up a fight. In the summer starting around July 1st, the annual Sockeye Run starts from the inlet all the way to the Russian River confluence. The Sockeye Run on the Kenai River is world famous, and folks from all over the world will travel to Soldotna to catch their daily limit of sockeye. And into the fall, the coho or silver start to run up the river, and they are a blast to catch, putting up a fight every time. The area also produces great opportunities for trout fishing, whether from the bank or the boat on the Kenai River to small lakes and ponds in the area. You can catch and release trout all day long, and even catching some giant 2-foot trout. If you are not into the fishing, Soldotna has plenty of hiking trails, walking, and biking paths around the city, as well as plenty of locations for camping, especially on the river. And thanks to the city, you can grab a hiking partner and some bear spray and get hiking into the wildlife refuge to see some moose. Along the river, within the city and the surrounding area, sits the Kenai Wildlife Refuge. The refuge has nearly 2 million acres and holds caribou, moose, and other big game animals like bears. The refuge was put in place in 1941 to conserve the natural resources and land in the area, as well as allow biologists to follow big game populations like moose to ensure healthy populations. While hanging out in Soldotna, be on the lookout for moose as you drive on Highway 1 along the refuge or in downtown. You will find moose are pretty comfortable going anywhere. And along the riverbanks and Cook Inlet, you can look up in the trees and see bald eagles waiting for a fish carcass to grab some dinner. For lodging and food in the area, you can find cabins, houses, and fishing shacks available for rent. During the peak sockeye fishing in July, places can be tricky to find, so book a year in advance to get a good deal and your spot for fishing. And with so many public places to fish on the Kenai River, you don't have to get a place on the river. But I would recommend for somebody visiting and fishing for the first time, rent a cabin on the river with private fishing access. For food, there's 2 places I always visit. First, the Kenai River Brewing Company. Great indoor and outdoor seating, plenty of beers on tap, and quality food. And if they have the Gummy Bear beer on tap, give it a try. You will get a bigger rush from the sugar than you will from that giant sockeye you caught earlier in the day. And I also go to St. Elias Brewing Company. Nothing says summer in Alaska than a day of fishing ending with a cold beer and wood fire pizza sitting outside on the patio with friends, recalling the story of the giant fish that got away. The fishing in Soldotna is world class, and if you've never been here, you've got to come. It's one of the things that was on my bucket list for a long time to come fish for kings, coho, and their world famous sockeye salmon run here. So if you're looking to fish one of the world's best fishing spots, come to Soldotna, hit the king salmon run, and then hit the late fall sockeye run as well. So when you plan your next trip to Alaska or next fishing adventure, look at Soldotna, Alaska. You might just get hooked and come back every year. And until next time, everyone, the outdoors is a gift. Share it with others.